find that replay.
Oh, did you? Good. I'm happy. So we are here on the Wednesday mindset call, and we're going to go over the coaching model. I'm actually going to go, I meant to do this first. We have a whole link in the Live Happy Business for Affiliates. I just searched model, and we have a whole link you can read up on and videos on it. But the coaching model is so simple to run through once you understand what it is, and then eventually we can start doing it in our brain all the time. I've been getting much better at it. So we will just run through it and give an example. But first, if you have your paper and pen, this is what we write. CTFAR. That's it. And there's actually printable pages on that link that did I share it yet? Okay, you guys are just jumping on. This is the link of all the information and the references that I'm talking about, but we just label the paper, and so we come up with the circumstance. So the circumstance is whatever's happening that you don't want happening or you want to happen. A circumstance is neutral. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing bad about it. It's just a circumstance. So a lot of times it's, hitting the rank of diamond or a certain income. Does somebody want to leave in the chat a circumstance that they're working through? And this can be used in your real life too, guys. This is not just only for Amari. Amari didn't create it. This is like a whole model that a ton of coaches all through the world use. Not making focus on 5. That's a really good one. So let's use that as a circumstance. And so we'll change the circumstance to just focus on 5 because what we do, sorry. So if anyone in here is not consistently hitting focus on 5, you guys can use the circumstance with us. So it just says C, focus on 5. So I want you to write all of the thoughts that come up with for that. And it's not just one, write as many as you possibly want or can think of. So I'll write a couple and then I'll share it, but maybe you guys could write some in the chat. Oh, he's falling off the steering wheel. So yeah, if you're not consistently hitting focus on 5 or you're not doing it soon enough, if you are consistently hitting focus on 5 every month, how can you do it in the first 5, 10, 15 days of the month? How can we improve that goal?
You want the thoughts or the feelings on that?
Thoughts.
Thoughts. They
Yeah,
can
thoughts
be good.
that come up. Good, bad, ugly.
I'm a failure. That's what I think of right away.
Okay. Failure. I'm writing this down too. And this doesn't mean all bad too. Think of good things. So I try to do a good mixture, but of course just authentically write what comes up. But think too, like focus on 5. How does it make you feel? Like if you achieved it, what feeling would come up, or what thought would come up as well? Sorry, thought. Excited. Like, would you be excited? You'd be able to afford groceries. You just don't deserve it. Focus on 5 would change my business because I can help others duplicate. That's only a brand builder status. I don't know anyone. People I know don't have money.
We could think of a million negative ones to go with that one.
Yeah. And the negative ones are real easy to come up with for
Yeah.
sure. So
Nobody likes me. Nobody wants to buy from me. I can't do it. It's too hard.
I think I have a hard time deciding what's a thought and what's a feeling. Like when I put one of them that I had done in practice in the mastermind chat, she goes, I think you think that like that's more of a feeling or maybe vice versa. I don't know. I think that I can hit this. I know what the C is for. but when it comes to the thoughts versus the feelings, because a feeling, okay, so I have defeated, I could feel defeated. I don't understand the difference.
Well, and I think you make a good point there because a lot of times I just kind of do both. Like for Focus on Five wrote, if I achieve Focus on Five, I would be really excited. I mean, that's a thought. I'm having a thought, but it's also an emotion. So, or a feeling, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't really worry too much about that because you can just write excited in the feeling or exhilarated if you really wanted to switch it up.
was gonna say, I think they can kind of be interchangeable as long as you're just working through both of them.
Yeah, and a thought is what that inner dialogue is telling you. So it
Yep.
can think feelings.
Well, in that mastermind, they're really micro, micro going through them. And like, I like the feedback. I have a hard time reading people's writing sometimes, so I'm not even certain what it says, and nor can I keep up with the chat. But
Yeah.
they're really going through it like, okay, no, that's not a thought, that's a feeling. And I'm like, what's the freaking difference?
I honestly, I just spam write things that are coming out of my head, and it really almost isn't going to matter because what I'm going to do is go through and find an empowering thought through that anyways. It's just I kind of picture it like a vent session. Like you see how I have mine? I have my circumstance and then I have all these thoughts. I'm just going to go and pick the empowering one now. And so the rest was just kind of like a brain dump, if you will. Unless I'm
Okay.
really stuck on
I
it, then we can work through it.
I
What
think the thoughts, like I was gonna say, I think the thoughts versus feelings is more like in terms of being able to just acknowledge the difference. Like, I don't think it matters too much which line, but like you can usually for like failure, well, your thought could be like, well, I feel like a failure. Well, that's a feeling. But if you're thinking like, oh shit, I'm a failure, that'd be a different way. So I think that's why they are so micro on that, just to get you to acknowledge the difference between like a feeling and a thought, maybe.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. So the next step is you find out of all those thoughts, we need to find an empowering one. And if you don't have one, then we need to find one. So did anybody write anything that feels empowering or is more positive?
I put that I'll be able to afford groceries.
That's a good one. Okay, I like that. So let's use that one. So affording groceries is the thought, and our circumstance never changes. It's still focus on five. Groceries. So what feelings come up when you think of standing at the cash register paying your groceries off without having to check your bank account?
Yes, complete happiness. Like, like I'm walking into that grocery store with the biggest smile on my face.
It is an exciting feeling, isn't it? Okay, so what action are you then doing when you're feeling completely happy? What kind of actions are you doing?
I'm having more conversations with people because I have that energy. Not even about the business or the juice. I'm just like, hey, how are you? And I'm exerting that happiness. So I
Yeah,
show up. Yeah, I show up totally different.
yeah, and this is Janice. This is also a part where sometimes I put emotions too, because I would feel inspired and I would feel excited. And so the actions is like my energy would be exciting. So I kind of mix emotions in that as well. And so what is the result of having conversations because you're happy, because you afforded groceries, because we did Focus on Five? What kind of
Those
results do we have?
it might generate some prospects because they're like, why are you so happy?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I shared with 5 people. Well, I wouldn't say that, but
So and what we can do too, sometimes if I'm really stuck in a bad mindset, I'll go through the other thoughts, the negative ones, if you will. And so like let's just run a model here on I don't deserve it. We're still talking about Focus on Five, and our thought is I don't deserve it. And just so we can see if I continue in that thought pattern, what's going to happen. So what kind of feeling comes up when we feel or when we're not deserving something? What kind of feeling would we be feeling?
Got imposter syndrome or something, like you don't belong here. You feel ick.
I hate
Feel
that
like
feeling.
Unworthy.
Yes, imposter syndrome, unworthy. Imposter. And so, what actions come from feeling unworthy or imposter syndrome?
None. That's why we're exactly where we are.
Mm-hmm.
it's so true. It's the all or nothing, right? And then you get overwhelmed and you feel like it's like, what's the point? And then you just do nothing.
Nothing. What's the point? Right. It's so true. And so, what is our result?
Not where we would like them to be.
You're looking at
Zilch.
them.
Yeah. So sometimes when I do get stuck in that negative, I mean, you don't need to go through all of the thoughts, but sometimes I kind of need it to rebalance me, because sometimes I'm like, Frig, what is the point? And then I'm like, oh, I better do a thought model on that. If I'm going to continue saying that, what's my result going to be next month? And every single time I get, the result is nothing. I get nothing. My business doesn't grow. I don't duplicate my business. I don't help people. I don't do this. I don't do that. So that's that. If you need to go through the other thoughts, then go through them. But pretty much guarantee all those negative ones, all the results are going to be zilch, nothing. But going through the good one, the empowering thought, is really interesting to see, because you're breaking down the actions for yourself in this. So now it's like, oh, okay, so what do I have to do? Well, Kendra, you said if you could afford groceries by getting focused on 5, you feel complete happiness. You'd have conversations and you'd feel inspired, which would generate prospects. So just start backwards. Why don't you just have the convo, feel this complete happiness because you know it's going to come. And then you know the result of that will be the circumstance of getting focused on 5.
That's how you reverse engineer. Thank you. I've been trying to figure out how, because yesterday in the mastermind, mini mastermind on Monday, Jill said you could reverse engineer it to help you. And I was like, but how? Thank you for
Yeah.
explaining that.
I was
Yeah,
the
well,
same. Just said that. I was like, that's exactly how they do it. It's perfect.
well, now you have the puzzle pieces. So this is like 5 puzzle pieces, right? And now you just got to put them together, but don't worry about what order they go in, because they're all connected. It's going to work out. It doesn't matter what puzzle piece you put together first. It's going to happen. Now you just know what the puzzle pieces are. It's kind of how I look at it. And then if you think that this isn't going to work, then you need to do another model on that.
It really
I-
is so important to be able to talk yourself out of dark like places, because if we go to work 9 to 5, you work for somebody, it's easy. They give you a list of stuff to do. And but this, when we work for ourselves, we're accountable to absolutely nobody. If we don't show up, the only person we're letting down is ourselves. And that's why it's so important to learn this, to be able to talk yourself out of that situation. Because I mean, we look at people spiral and then they disappear, right? So this keeps us from not disappearing.
we constantly, every day, all day, talk ourselves into bad situations, but then when we do this and we're talking ourselves into good situations, we're like, oh no, it doesn't work that way. That's exactly how it works. You do it literally all the time with bad things. I can't sleep. I can't afford this. I can't do this. I don't have good friends. I don't have a good marriage. I'm not successful. And then you convince yourself of all these things. But then when we talk about the good things, everybody wants to pull back and is scared and nervous. And I mean, that's totally fine. But you obviously talk yourself into bad things because you're ready to move into a different space. So clearly you have the capability of talking yourself into good things. And this is the tool that you can use it with.
That is so
And
true.
I
'Cause some-
find too, oh, sorry, you go, Kendra.
That's okay. I was just gonna say that is so true to what Nicole just said, because I find when I watch like inspiring podcasts when I'm in a bad mindset, I'm like, ugh, I can't even listen to this right now because it's so far away from my reality. I just don't even want to deal with it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
happens to me too. These
And
don't
I was gonna
resonate.
say when I start to spiral, like so what I've noticed is when I start to thought spiral and like my thoughts start to stray off from like the circumstance, I'll revisit the circumstance and see if there's anything else. So like I always like try to write the circumstance on each page because I find sometimes my thoughts just go like way out of left field.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the cool thing is we just literally can just do this as many times as we want, as often as we want. That was I did thought models on coming home before we left Vegas because I find when I go to convention or I do any, I mean, I've never been to a leadership mastermind, but you know, just being in that kind of atmosphere, I was really scared when I got home I would lose that motivation because you get busy with life and kids and yada yada yada. So I ran the model on losing momentum before I even went into the situation. So then when I got home and I was really tired, I went back to that note page and then remembered how I was feeling in that moment. I was like, oh yeah, we don't want to do that. So we're going to go back to the thought model and then read how I was feeling and stick with that. So that's what I wanted. That's what I want. Huh. Right. I know a lot of people that I talk to, especially in here, we talk often about imposter syndrome. So start working on it now with the thought models.
So I do have a question, and this is just something that I struggle with personally, was the bridging thoughts.
Yeah, I did too, Olivia, until we were at Leadership Mastermind, and then Jill called it an empowering thought. And then I was like, oh, so
Oh, because they keep the word like the bridging thought I don't know why. I struggle with like
yeah, I was too. And then, like I said, in Mastermind, Jill was saying an empowering thought. So we would list all of these bad, negative thoughts. And she's like, okay, yeah, but fine. That's the importance of the circumstance being so neutral. Because if we put focus on 5 and you're only saying bad things, well, why do you even want it if you can't think of one good thing about focus on 5? Does that make sense?
true. That makes so much sense.
So yeah, it's all about how neutral the circumstance is, because that way I can say something like, I'm trying to think of something so simple, like happy juice is the circumstance. Well, some people hate happy juice, some
Yeah.
people hate network marketing. They have a million negative things to say about it, but they can say like how neutral it is. They can come up with something good, right? It's a vitamin, it's a supplement, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So then we write
Absolutely. That's what
all of the thoughts.
so when I struggle with finding a circumstance, what I've been doing is I have a chat GPT chat and I wrote in it that I need help with like neutralizing circumstances because what I find is it allows me to like I'll express to it like whatever I think the circumstance is, and then it'll spit it back to me in a neutral like so like for example, I was urgent care yesterday and I got a referral fax to a surgeon. So the circumstance is literally just a referral was faxed to the surgeon. But of course, my brain was like, oh my God, that means I'm having surgery. Like this, well no, that just means this was faxed to the surgeon.
Yes. Yeah. Good for you. It's very neutral,
I
right?
find it helps take the emotion out of it
Mhm.
when I do it that way, because if not, then I get stuck in like the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can neutralize anything. And like once we learn the art of neutralizing all these circumstances, it's really powerful because then we can do that in our everyday life.
Do you know those
Yes,
people
I said
that,
that to somebody. Sorry, you go.
no, I was just saying, you know, those people that when something happens or they hear something, like I'm thinking of my father, he jumps to the worst circumstance that could ever happen. Like that's his first thought. and that's the subconscious mind, like not having control over your subconscious mind for years and years and years of everything jumps to the worst case scenario. So that's why the getting, again, getting a hold of ourselves and being able to think through these things, then we're not, then we do go to the neutral, it was just the facts to the surgeon instead of jumping to the worst case scenario.
Yep.
Yeah, and people will be more drawn to you too when you do that. Like, I think back now to how much I've grown mentally most of the time, sometimes. And I'm like having conversations with friends I used to be really, really close with, and they're really drawn to that negative, like everything sucks, traffic sucks, this is awful. And I just can't relate with them at this point in my life because it's so exhausting. And I mean, I used to be like that, so I'm not judging them, just saying once you continue to do this and start neutralizing thoughts, you're going to have the same experience where you're only attracting and higher vibrating people because you just can't even physically deal with all the negativity. And don't get me wrong, I still have some crazy people come into my life and I'm like, oh wait, what is going on up in here that this is happening?
Oh yeah, like me. Bleh.
Or,
But no,
you
you're
know,
right. You're right.
yeah, when I see somebody cranky at Costco or something, I'm like, why am I seeing this right now? What did I do? What's going on in here that I'm seeing this?
What is the lesson? What is the mirror?
Mm. What were we talking about mirrors the other day?
We've been talking
What
about
was
mirrors
that?
for a while.
Oh, that wasn't MRI related. Never mind. Yeah. I'm like, where was this? I thought it was on a call we had, but it's
I think it might have been mentioned. Might have mentioned it.
maybe, but I mean, yeah,
Maybe.
that's the other cool thing about the model is you can figure out why you're seeing things you're seeing and you can understand and take ownership and responsibility. And I hate it just as much as the next guy learning that all this stuff's my fault. My fault. But it is true. And when we can change our thoughts and change our feelings and change our actions, then that's when our life changes. And this is the most simple model I've ever seen used that anybody can do it. My kids can do this. It's just making it a practice.
Are we allowed to go on our like lives, not lives, like stories and stuff and talk about this? Or is this like only Amari related? Like, could I share the thought model in one of my reels maybe? Or
Oh yeah, this is like a big thing. I don't even know, like, I don't know
Brooke
who actually
Brooke
created it.
Costello. Brooke Costello. I did research on it because I wanted to share it in a reel once. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to like just say this was from Jill Sager because I know Jill didn't create it. So I Googled it. Brooke Costello. She was a self-help coach.
Cool.
Cool.
How do you know when? Because it's been around for quite a few years, hasn't it?
Like in the 70s, I think. 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
It was
I've heard
a
it
while ago. But I definitely like the way that that this is explained this way because some people don't explain it right.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that there was other people that did the model because when Denise Baker shared a bridging thought link in one of the chats, I clicked on it and it was another girl talking about the model. And I was like, wait a minute, Jill didn't invent this? That's when I realized it wasn't Jill that invented it. It was like the other day.
Too with the bridging thought. So the one that I originally learned before Jill was they were saying like a bridging thought can be again any thought, but like a lot of the circumstances was like, let's say we're back to the circumstance of focus on 5. A bridging thought would be, has anybody else achieved focus on 5 before? So they can do it, you can do it type thing. So it took a lot more effort, I found, to figure out a bridging thought rather than just how Jill is like, this is neutral and just write all the good, bad, and ugly thoughts down, right? So I like this one better.
Bridging thoughts are helpful though. I also find if I get stuck in negative, I'll ask myself, how can I make it better?
Yeah, I like it.
Like whatever whatever the circumstance or situation is. So like for focus on 5, okay, I haven't achieved it this month, but how can I maximize, or like, I find asking yourself how gets you out of the negative loop and gets your brain thinking.
Yeah, it does. It does. And then the cool thing is too, is once you figure out all these actions and results and, instantly go, how can I implement this right now? And even if a lot of mine are all based around self-worth and self-confidence and all those things, so that's where I need the most growth. Trying to fix my language here. And so I try to go implement action right away. And sometimes, like, we've had this conversation on these mindset calls where sometimes that's getting up and going to floss my teeth real good, go and have a nice shower, wash your hair really well. It's just, the quicker you implement something, even the smallest, tiniest, teeniest action, the quicker you're building your confidence. If you just do this model and then just throw it in a notebook and just throw it away, it's, does everybody get that? Like, go implement an action with it right away so that you have what am I trying to say? Like, confidence, I guess, to work through it. Does that make sense? And I'm serious, like, if one of your actions is messaging people, like, message someone and say happy birthday. That's it. And I'm not even talking about hitting them up with the business or anything, but just something so you can implement in your brain that you created the action so you're more confident now.
I got a question for you, Nicole. Do you
I might
remember?
have-
Do you remember at the end of the retreat where that Jill said, the next 72 hours, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then you're going to reward yourself after you do X, Y, Z. Did you do that?
What was it? I don't even remember that.
She said in the next 72 hours, we had to write down 3 things that we were going to do. And once we did them, then we were supposed to reward ourselves.
Oh, I did. I did. One was the $1,000 club. Start that.
Yeah.
Enroll a brand partner, and I did that. And then there was one more. I did do it.
Did you reward yourself?
No, but I'm in front of Sally Beauty, so maybe I'll go buy myself some new eyelashes.
There you go.
Go reward yourself. Dang it.
I'll go.
So
Me and Sally-
sometimes,
Treat yourself.
yeah. So sometimes, like, even the getting those, like, so make a list of 3 things you need to do in a day. And at the end of the day, reward yourself with something like,
Dang.
go take a bath. Like, it doesn't even have to be something big or whatever, right? But just something for self-care. But I was
That's
actually I did that today. There's a swimsuit top that has been in my Amazon cart and I finally checked out.
Woohoo, new bathing suit for us.
Yeah. Whatever.
Nicole, you're a nurse or nurse learner, right?
Yeah, I was gonna shut off the recording here 1 sec. I assume you don't want this recorded.